All right, there we go. We are officially live, everybody. Welcome to the 12-hour cast that we are doing today. We have our guest, VegasMidas, Simon. He's going to be streaming some 510 for right now. 2 tables of Zoom on stars, and see where it goes from there. See where it goes. Looks like Twitch Poker is pretty busy today, though. A lot of people streaming.
Yeah, we just gotta get all of them. Like, content that.
We gotta get all of them. Well, nobody's doing. People don't really stream cash games that much, I've noticed.
Yeah, I mean, these are supposedly the toughest games in the world right now. I mean, obviously, there's still tougher games if you have 10 times the money, but I think high stakes on stars is supposed to be very tough.
Yeah. I believe that.
All right. Yeah, so I think right now I know every single person in this pool. That's cool. It's interesting.
Yeah, quite a bit of history. I know that the Gecko guy plays all the time, seems like.
Yeah, he plays a lot. He's kind of an interesting player, I should say. I like weird is definitely the wrong word. Because, you know, like he plays a style that many people don't play, but I couldn't say that that's not good by him. So that makes him interesting and not weird.
What is what style would you define that as?
He doesn't really like to fold, but you can say that about a lot of people. But with him, it's very extreme in a lot of spots, and he doesn't hide it either. Like, it's not like he's concealing it in any way. So apparently, that's the way he thinks. You know, he thinks people can't exploit that. That's really what he must think, or people don't exploit that. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, maybe a lot of people aren't able to exploit it enough for him to change, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, he plays 10-20, so I feel like those guys are pretty good at exploiting.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably the truth as well. Just get a little bit of background noise.
Just tell me if there's anything I need to change. Are you sure that we're live?
Yeah, I got it all. It was, well, we're about to be live here because we were doing it like 5 minutes on the wrong stream key.
All right. Is anybody complaining yet? No, not quite.
No, not yet.
Man, I gotta be careful with these stats because, like, I look at some numbers, and if I was playing PLO, then these numbers would just be like super good for me. But I'm not playing PLO, so I usually really shouldn't do that much based on them. It's just such a different game.
Yeah, it seems like that's a pretty hard game to transition back and forth from, but at the same time, kind of what you were talking about, having, like, treating it as kind of like a breath of fresh air is nice. In that spot, you're defending all your suited aces on table 1.
I wouldn't say all my suited aces, but having 5 makes a lot of sense. Oh, damn. I can't watch the screen at the same time. Okay. Yeah, very interesting situation. Yeah, like having a deuce to 5 in our hand with a lot of equity makes a ton of sense because those cards are hard to hit. And then we can make the wheel, which is good. But, you know, that, like, in a sense, ace 7 suited can be worse than ace 3 suited in some situations. So I'm calling ace 3 suited, and I'm kind of thinking about ace 7 suited sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, because the equity difference is a little bit significant.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not the equity difference, actually. It's really just how often you hit something, and it's quite like small differences in multiple ways. And equity is actually kind of the hardest to estimate, because ace 7, you know, should have more equity than ace 3, kind of just from a logical standpoint, because we have a higher side card. Table 1, I have a pretty tempting hand to call with. In my opinion, at least.
And what is he representing there on table 1?
I guess ace-king or better. I mean, I think you should be able to value bet ace-king. It's very hard for me to raise, because he has all the ace-queens. I'm just going to make a call. I feel like this is a good hand for it. Yeah, I mean, he's very certainly capable of bluffing. Although when I talk to other players, it seems like they don't think anybody's capable of bluffing. So maybe I'm like totally wrong. Okay, looks good on table 2. We called the flop to hit a set, and we hit a set.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, table 1 we're doing the same. We're just calling. We keep calling to hit like a straight or something. That's the idea. 7 is quite a good card from our range. I'm not even sure whether I have enough bluffs. Just going to put this size. There's going to be... there's definitely going to be some pauses where I have to think about things that I really can't articulate very well. Yeah, like in that table 1 is kind of a close situation on the turn, depending on how he plays. And then I kind of looked at, well, I actually didn't really look at anything. I kind of thought about what I know about him, and then I thought, okay, this is actually a good spot to bet in the turn, and then I didn't bet. So, very good time management there.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a 5, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, we're
I'm
doing...
reading the commentary as well, by the way.
Do what?
I'm reading the comments on my other screen. So, you know, like, because right now I was just going to address what Maxi Lol just wrote about HUD stats. Or do you want to ask me the question first?
Go ahead.
No, you can ask. No, okay. No, it's I don't really see the point in explaining all these stats, because I think based on them, almost anybody would kind of decide differently. So if you have the same stats, and if I explain them to you, and you can look at them, you make a different decision. And then also, I actually really don't need most of them. So it's kind of misleading to assume that because there's some of these numbers that I would make a different decision. I really wouldn't do that. Like, as I said, I know each one of these players. I only have the HUD up for like situations that don't come up that often, and then I kind of need to look at a couple of tendencies. But I put a lot of these numbers together in those situations. If you keep saying that you want to get an explanation, then I'm actually going to explain. But I feel like it's not that important.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely can agree with that, especially with HUDs that have a lot of stats. They're kind of, yeah, I agree, used to, like, on their own, some of them aren't that useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, just being able to use them to like actually build entire stories, I guess, that's pretty valuable. But yeah, I don't think it would be that valuable to explain all the HUD stats.
All right. I mean, what I was saying, or what you were saying right now, is basically called profiling, so that you kind of, so it kind of means that instead of looking at a number and making a decision, you put all the numbers together, like a lot of them, and and kind of create a player profile for your opponent. And then that's kind of what I do. My HUD also, like these stats aren't really grouped by any type of system that makes that much sense. They're kind of grouped in a way that allows me to create a profile more quickly. And that's also what makes it really hard to explain them. So you can kind of see, I mean, essentially everything that's red is aggressive and everything that's green is passive. And yellow is passive as well. But that's really the only system that's transparent.
Okay, so if their stats go to a certain, if they go like pretty high, then the color will change or whatever is what you're saying?
No, it's just like, let's say, it's a stat about somebody making a bet. A bet is an aggressive action, the stat is going to be red.
Okay.
And if it's something about somebody folding, then it's going to be green.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh, I mean, that doesn't make sense. Damn it! I was gonna save that for later. But generally, how do you feel now that we kind of have? Okay.
Friendship ain't about trust. Friendship is about non-trust.
Gotta turn that off. I had to get. Sorry, everybody, for tech stuff. We're trying to get everything set up. I had to reinstall Windows to get it all working, but now, yeah. Yeah, so I guess now that we're kind of filled up and we got some people in here, do you want to kind of talk about these games a little bit? Your experience in these? Because, like you were saying before, they are considered pretty tough games. And kind of like how you manage to like be able to hang in these games and do quite well. Just, I guess, your overall thoughts on these games.
That's interesting. That question is interesting because it's something I've never really defined myself as being a no-limit player or a 5-10 reg. Because for me, poker is just kind of, I need to do a lot of different things. And for example, playing PLO helps me with my no-limit game, and it helps my mental game as well. So I've never really thought about how I even manage to play these games. I simply play them as long as it works for me somehow. And then, you know, like I work a lot on my poker game, and that seems to pay off. But it might as well not. Like there's people who work a lot on their games and it doesn't pay off for them. So what's the difference? I don't really know. And that's what makes it so tough. In poker, it's kind of easy to get lured into thinking that that you're so good just based on short-term results. And short-term can even be a year. But like right now, I can say that I'm looking for enjoying what I do, and I do enjoy what I do. And if it turns out next year that I can't beat these games, then I'm going to have to deal with that.
What was table 1? You 3-bet and you got 2 callers?
No. RPZ opened under the gun, played smart, called, and I overcalled in the small blind, which seems debatable. This is close in my book. Might not be close in anybody's book. I think I can call this. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I'm actually making a pretty big mistake. You never know. Table 1. You can pick all different types of sizes. RPZ can have decent hands. play it smart really can't. I'm gonna go for like a standard looking size.
And you would value bet. I guess you would have like. Do you even have full houses here? Like Jack 10 suited, I guess is it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, mostly it's kind of like King Jack or better, I think. Not really much else. I'm gonna make this interesting play on this table here, I think. This is so tricky. I don't think I can. There's a lot of close spots against these players, as it should be. I mean, if you're a good player, then you put your opponent into close spots a lot. So table 2, I considered making a bet, but I didn't. And apparently I was right, not doing it.
Alright.
But I wasn't right calling preflop. I also wasn't right 3-betting preflop. The guy with the glasses is playing.
Yeah, I went and put a little thing under your name. That way people know what's going on who are new to the stream. Because it looks like a lot of people are on today playing. So, alright, now we got all that fixed. Ironed out.
Yeah. There's definitely going to be some unorthodox play on my part in this.
So that was you 3-bet big blind versus the button on table 1?
No, he 3-bet me, and I just called 3-bet because I'm a gangster.
And you have history with that guy, or what was your like reasoning behind calling the king 4?
He made it a little bit small, and I'm only playing 2 tables, so I gotta keep myself from falling asleep. No, I mean, I think it's close. It can be bad. There's certain types of... If I think I know a lot about him, if he plays in a certain way, maybe I can call. I kind of get the feeling that like these suited high card hands are pretty callable against small 3-bets, especially in position, because you just make a flush sometimes. You just flop a flush draw sometimes. You hit your low card, which, as I said earlier, is pretty valuable. This is kind of not my favorite spot. I'm actually going to make a bet here. This is a little bit fancy. I mean, you could consider this could be very fancy, but it's not a bad thing to occasionally bet an ace in any spot. You have these kind of conflicting logics that you have ace high, so you have showdown value, so you don't want to bet. But then, if you never bet an ace, once you do bet and the turn's an ace, you never hit it, which kind of sucks. So, betting the occasional ace and having some type of plan makes sense.
And what was your plan for that spot? Was just check down the ace after the turn?
I was gonna bluff sometimes, but these spots, yeah, I was gonna bluff sometimes. I have to, I think, once I bet. His hand really doesn't fold very often, so my bet wasn't that good. Oh wow, Poppy is playing. It's pretty cool.
Who is he?
He used to play these stakes a lot and even higher. I think he plays a bit lower. Like, he has been playing a bit lower lately. Yeah. 15%. It's quite a bit. I'm making this fold. It's also not that clear whether I should do that. There's so many unclear spots in poker, and like in order to, oh, we're looking, we got the ding dong going. In order to solve them, you just need to do so much work, and even then, you might have made a mistake. You might not have solved them. That's a good king. I'm actually gonna check this. Might not be the best play. Apparently, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I don't know anything about this guy. I mean, he plays 2 tables, 3 now. Jacks is kind of a hand that's supposed to 4-bet. So that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, okay. I know how this guy plays now. And that's a good spot for me.
Yeah. Waiting for my Red Bull to kick in right now.
Are you tired?
Yeah, not too bad. Someone asked why you chose Yao Ming as your avatar. Onion7 did.
Oh, because he has such a cool smile. It's really my only reason. I guess it should be more sophisticated, right? Like I know that that's his name, and I think people know him for some reason, but I really don't know anything about him.
Yeah. I think he plays golf. He's a professional golfer.
What, he was a golfer? I thought he was like an MMA fighter or something.
No, he's a basketball player. I think he plays for Houston.
Jesus, see? You're just like embarrassing me.
Well, you're not US, so it's not really. That's like one of the few basketball players I know. I'm not a big basketball guy. Table 2. You opened the small blind. He called. You bet flop.
No, I opened the small blind. He 3-bet, and I called the 3-bet. For everybody watching, the reason why Bryce keeps getting wrong what's happening is because I just keep doing things that you wouldn't expect. So yeah, this is not at like stakes like this. This is kind of a decent calling hand against the 3-bet. At lower stakes, this could be like really atrocious. Yeah, the ace king. All right.
Because players aren't as aggressive, blind versus blind.
He's betting a lot, yeah. And then it's also kind of the question is what range does he 3-bet? But don't really know that. We just kind of assume that if somebody 3-bets a lot, there have to be some weak hands in there.
Generally don't most good players approach like more of a polarized range in that spot?
Actually, not really. Like, there's some people who are pretty polarized. There's some people who are a little bit polarized, and then some people who are like not polarized at all. And like a lot of them, they could be winning at these stakes and even higher. And you find each of those types, and they have a pretty good reasoning for what they're doing. And then depending on how you structure your range, you have to go from there. You have to kind of proceed differently. And lately, actually, kind of people depolarize their ranges a little bit more in all types of spots. Interesting spot. We have a good hand, so we're gonna bet.
Yeah.
Poker is a calling game. I mean, if you can say anything about poker, it's that it's kind of a calling game. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be aggressive. Obviously, you need to be aggressive, but the thing, like, calling kind of just works in a lot of spots because of pot odds, and you're never really making a huge mistake doing it. So that's why I'm saying poker is a calling game. You can see table 2. I just call and keep calling. Like, This is kind of a sucky spot. I'm gonna call down, but I wouldn't be shocked if he just gave up on a bluff occasionally here. All right, or saves me some money.
You think that's a little bit like? What do you think about that guy's play, checking down queens on the river there?
It kind of comes down to how I approach that spot. How much I slow play preflop. But that board hits me pretty well by the river, so it could be fine what he did. It's certainly nothing that surprises me a ton. Which is also why I was kind of expecting him to and sometimes not bluff, because it's just kind of hard to bluff me there. Like, it's hard for me to fold that often. Table 1, this is kind of the size that I should call against sometimes, but I won't this time. Man, I forgot, I got the worst coffee in the world. I gotta get some of that.
I got hazelnut. It's been my coffee lately.
I don't even know what that is. So that's a nut. So how did you get that into a coffee?
I don't know. How do you get a bean into a coffee?
Grind. So you grind. What is it? Are there nuts in your coffee?
It's hazelnut flavored.
Oh, so it's flavored. All right, I got that. Yeah, I just drink coffee. Like, not a coffee hazelnut mix. I just drink coffee. But I have two types of coffee. One of them is kind of tricky to deal with, and that's the one I'm drinking right now. Yeah, and I suck at it. Right, people seem to enjoy my HUD. Oh, this guy's playing, that's nice. Huh, this is such an iffy hand. I mean, we obviously don't fold today.
It always looks so good, the Jack 10 suited.
Yeah, the cool thing about playing higher stakes is that you can definitely call a lot more pre-flop. Like, people just have the types of ranges that you need them to have. He's going to be fairly straightforward here, I think. Which doesn't mean that I make a lot of money by calling the flop, but it means that should be okay. Yeah. And I mean, now I just have these bluffs here. There's nothing I can do about it. And
are you going for overbet? Looks like.
I'm thinking about it. I think I should. I could even jam, I feel like. Like, I think jamming is not out of the question here.
And by overbetting, what are you representing? Like ace 4, pocket 4s?
Yeah, 2 pair better. That's kind of the parlay there. It's like, do I want to rep 1 pair and bet smaller, or do I want to rep 2 pair? And I think with these ranges and the way I mean, basically with my range, basically, mainly, well, Jesus, it's complicated. But yeah, it's just sometimes repping a very, very strong hand makes a lot of sense, because we just have a lot of strong hands, and then we don't need to make a smaller size, and then rep like the exactly ace queen, which might not even matter whether we have that or not, because I definitely can have ace king, and I can definitely have all the other, like a lot of the other 2 pair. This seems close. I'm just gonna 3-bet this. Okay. I'm gonna play this a bit tricky, but It's the way it goes in these games.
On table 2.
Yeah.
It's hard to see. Easy is the button on that one. It's hard to see the button.
Yeah, it is hard to see. Let me think what we can do about that. I mean, the problem is the button is at a different spot every time.
Yeah. Well, it's fine. You don't have to. It's fine. Don't mess with it.
Yeah, we can just, when the button is at the bottom spot next time, I'm just going to try and move the HUD around a little bit. It could even be like this. This could be good. I get 3-bet a lot today. I don't know what people are doing. But, like, it's kind of... When you get 3-bet a ton by people who don't talk to each other right now, which I assume they're not doing, then probably each of them has a good hand. Because there's really no other logical reason for different types of people to just consistently 3-bet you all the time. Because they don't know that the other guys are doing that. So they can't, like, it can't be like a psychological thing.
Yeah, sometimes everybody's been there where it does feel like everybody kind of got together and had a meeting, like, we're going to 3-bet Simon today.
Yeah. It's going to 3-bet 80% against this one guy.
I've had those days where I just get 3-bet, 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 and I just assume like everybody's just trying to beat me up, and it's just one of those days. Lambeck wanted to know if you could discuss further the idea that poker is a calling game.
Yeah, so, and then the other guy was saying that Phil Ivey said poker is a betting game, and the fact that poker is a calling game doesn't mean that you should be passive. What it means is that you kind of set up your hand range in a way that you can call a raise, especially a small raise, and that's kind of important. It's important pre-flop, very, very, very important. If you look at the top videos and kind of the top players' thoughts lately, you just call a ton pre-flop if you can. It's just the way it goes. Because you can, because you're getting pot odds. Like, you know, the reason why we even play all these hands here is that there's pot odds. So we can win more than we risk. Otherwise, nobody would really play any hands. So that's the calling spot number one. And if by 3-betting, you're always kind of negating that. You're always saying, I could call getting good pot odds, but I don't want to do that. I rather want to 3-bet. So, you know, that's something you have to kind of consider carefully. Like, is that really what you want to do? And then the second spot is that if you make a bet and you get raised, if your range is extremely polarized, then it's kind of tricky to call the raise very often. But you're getting really good pot odds, so it kind of makes sense to have a maybe slightly different type of range where you can call more often with those good pot odds. I'm going to double float this, but it's iffy.
You kind of figure your overs are good sometimes, as well as obviously your gutter ball.
I have no idea what he's doing. But okay. He's a weird person, but he also plays really high sometimes, so he's probably good.
We have Nanos here. Apotheosis just stopped in. Good to have you here, buddy. Yeah, hi to everybody who just came in. If I haven't said hi to everybody, we were kind of trying to get everything worked out and get Simon settled and make sure everything was clear for the stream. But today is our 12-hour stream. We're starting out with 3 hours from Simon, who plays 510. I mean, he plays higher, but he's playing 510 on Zoom right now. No limit hold'em, and will be for the next 3 hours. And then I will play for a while, and then he will be rejoining us, and then I will play. It's just going to be a long day of a lot of poker. It's definitely going to be a solid 12 hours, so everybody get settled in. We're in our first 30 minutes, so it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be a good day. I'm excited about it. I'm excited.
I'm also excited. I would be more excited if this was daytime, but this coffee definitely makes me excited. interesting spot here. This has to be like the clearest overbet in the history of overbets. I feel like the guy doesn't really have a straight flush that often.
And what do you mean by that? The board was 9-8, 9, Queen 9.
I mean, it's kind of this bet. Like the question is, what do you want to, like, why do you bet big? Why do you bet small? And in the past, people kind of summed it up as if you bet a very polarized range, then you bet bigger. And if you bet a range that's not that polarized, you're betting smaller. But the problem with that is that if you bet top pair and a pure bluff, that's a polarized range. Like if that's everything that you're betting. But top pair isn't such a strong hand. So if that's really the best that you can have, then your opponents can raise you a lot. So then putting in a lot of money into the pot might not have been the best idea, even though our range was polarized. And that's kind of why bet sizing theory is a bit more complicated. It's really about what's the best hand that somebody can have. How often can he put you into a tough spot? And at table 1, that was simply a spot where he cannot put me into a tough spot because he never has a good hand. I mean, he had the nut flush, but there's trips on the board, so that's not a good hand. Like he just never has anything. The best thing he can possibly ever have, and probably even that only in his dreams, is a queen. And that's why I can overbet, because what's he going to do about it? And that's why I did it.
All right. It's definitely something I've moved away from overbetting as much as I used to before, but I definitely, yeah, it's fun to do.
Yeah.
Said you look really smart because you're wearing glasses.
I can live with that.
Yeah. It's good to look smart.
Yeah. If you had said I look really geeky or like really boring because I wear glasses, then that would have been a different story. But nobody would say that probably. That wouldn't be a nice thing to say. Who does that?
Yeah. Wouldn't be the nicest thing in the world.
Okay, so this guy, man, okay, Miss Oracle is sitting down, that's cool. This is interesting. There's so many different playstyles right now, like, it's really tricky to kind of deal with these, like, you just have to know so many strategies, I feel like. It's just crazy. I don't know what to do, I'm gonna check. Alright, that sucks.
Now, I've noticed you mentioned like different play styles a few times, and I guess you would mean like more styles than just like tag or lag, or kind of those are like the pretty basic definitions. How would you go about like describing different types of styles? Like what differentiates? Like, what makes somebody have their own style? I guess if you were to define, like, if you were to describe certain players like as having different styles, what would those different styles be? I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
It's a lot about how often they fold in different spots. It's not like people necessarily played that differently pre-flop. Jesus, that was a hard sentence. Seems kind of interesting. I mean, I will check, but like, who knows like what that is. Yeah, it's not like people kind of play drastically different styles pre-flop, or that, you know, somebody just goes totally crazy or something. Like, it's all in moderation. But there's definitely people who just kind of refuse to fold. And, you know, I wonder why that is. Like, what are they thinking? This seems ever so slightly close to me. Oh man, there's so many people right now. It's nuts. Yeah, so it's kind of like it's mostly why don't they fold? Like, why is there a spot that somebody doesn't fold in, and a spot that's quite common? Like, what's his rationale? What would he try to? How would he explain that when playing against good players? So that's kind of the intriguing thing about it, to me. You know, if I was playing lower stakes and people had these different styles, I would simply assume that they don't know they don't know how to play poker. But here, it's really not what you can assume. I mean, you can, but it doesn't seem like it's a smart assumption.
Yeah, it seems strange. And the fact that I guess you would probably assume most of these guys are winning players. And
Yeah,
can have like pretty drastic styles of play.
Yeah.
Or like drastically different. Yeah.
Oh, I made a mistake on table 2. For sure. Let's hope this Oracle bails me out. I mean, his range is just insane. I can probably check raise.
What do you mean by his range is insane?
His range should be extremely wide. Pre-flop, like, yeah, tons of, like, man, anything suited really. I'm not folding this hand. And he just does this like stuff like that. He's a weird person.
He's just trying to get you off a chop there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know why. And I don't even... It's kind of... Maybe he thinks my range is super weak there. Which apparently it's not. Interesting spot. This is such a good card for me that I'm going to make this slightly non-standard play. I mean, I guess I'm making a lot of non-standard plays today. And I'm just going to give up now.
What were you barreling the river? If so, what cards were you looking for on that board?
I mean, it has to be a card that hits me very well. An 8, 10 maybe, a king. Maybe those types of cards.
And non-diamonds, since you don't have diamonds in your hand, you're not looking to bluff those cards.
Well, you know, there's some diamonds that aren't that good for me. Like, it's transparent that... It's obviously very transparent that I have bluffs in my range. So if I just treat every diamond the same, some of them complete a straight draw, some of them don't. Some of them are overcards, some of them aren't. So I don't think I can treat every diamond the same. And that's why I gave up on that diamond.
Glub said he likes when we both take a sip from our drink at the same time.
Do we do that? We should try and synchronize that.
Do it on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, man, that was no, I couldn't do it. I need to pick it up before you start saying that.
Yeah, I just want to steal your thunder and sip my cup. This guy, Kid Fiddler, he says he knows you.
Poker Stars Club thing. I don't know what that is. I mean, if he can give me a hint what his Skype name is, or then maybe I could remember. I'm not in that many groups. So if we look at table 1, this is the type of card where I'm in trouble with my range and he's really not. So he can make very big bets. that's kind of what we discussed earlier. I really can't raise that much. I mean, I do have Queen 10. I could raise with that, but I might not even want to. So this is a type of spot where he has Ace King, I don't have Ace King. He still has Ace Jack, which I don't have. He has Jacks and Aces, which I don't have, etc. So, yeah, it's a tricky spot for me.
So raising, like basically having a raising range in that turn would make you probably pretty unbalanced.
Seems like it, yeah. It's not only about him unbalanced, it's also about him being able to play fairly well against it, because I'm like repping exactly Queen 10. So if he has a Queen or a 10 in his hand, he knows something that I don't know that he knows that. And then if the board pairs, he knows something as well, which is that I best thing I can have is a straight. Same if the flush comes in, so it might really not be that was tight, obviously, but whatever. It's just not that smart to kind of rep one hand when there's a lot of board changing cards. That's a PLO concept as well. Yeah, but it also applies to no limit sometimes. Man, I mean, this guy 3-bets so much in this spot that I might not even want to open this.
Oh, the 8-7. So this Miss Oracle, dude, you seem pretty happy to see this person playing, so I guess they're pretty aggro.
I mean, I'm happy, yeah. His style is very wild, and generally I can deal with that. So it kind of makes me happy.
Yeah. I know you don't want to like come out and say like who your spots are, but you don't have to give that away. But yeah, I mean I probably wouldn't either.
Well, there's really not many players that I'm not happy to see. So that says something about my ego, and it says something. It doesn't really tell you that much about these players. So that's kind of not the thing. The question is like, what exactly makes me confident against them? And against him, it's really that he's kind of wild, and I feel like he might be overdoing it sometimes. Against other people, it can be something different, and it can make me equally happy. And then if you ask me whether I win money against them, like whether I think I have a big edge, like I wouldn't even be that sure. But, you know, knowing something about them that I feel like I can do something against is a good start. If you ever want to win money.
Yeah. Who do you think the best 1K no limit Zoom 6 max player is? I feel like this person is asking. I'm Sanko. I put a little tongue face at you, so I wonder if it's somebody you know.
I don't know. So I guess I'm going to leave it at that.
I do know that some of the biggest winners don't necessarily have the biggest win rates in these games. Guys like King 10 of clubs that just
that's not the way you can put it. I guess what you have to say is that the best poker players don't necessarily have the biggest win rate, and that could be true. There's one thing about kind of talking about these like best players at a stake, which is simply that it's kind of unfair to do that. Like, you know, would anybody really want me to say that I think he's the best player? What's the point of that? Everybody would respect him more because of that. I mean, I guess everybody who takes me seriously. So I feel like I'd be more comfortable talking about the worst players. Like, you know, they might be insulted, but on the other hand, if nobody takes them seriously, they can probably win more money against these guys.
Yeah.
If they're better than I think they are.
I'll start spreading rumors about you being the worst player at 1K.
Yeah,
that way everybody underestimates you. Yeah, we're just...
apologize for my HUD. People kind of complain about the HUD a lot. If I had a smaller one that I felt comfortable using, I would use it right now, but this is really the only HUD that I use. And I play 8 Zoom tables like this with this HUD, so apparently I I don't really care about aesthetics.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair trade-off that we get to watch you play. I think everybody will settle in.
This interesting situation. Kind of bettable, I feel like. There's a lot of bad cards, so it kind of sucks.
Bad turns.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, you start bluffing, and then the turn hits that you really don't want to hit, and then you kind of have to keep bluffing, but it's not really what you want to do. So you kind of avoid that by checking the flop. This is a 3-bet. The problem with these different types of HUDs is simply that if you play a ton of tables, clicking a pop-up is sometimes really a big problem. If you just always have to click a stat, then look at a pop-up, then click a different stat, look at a different pop-up, and then, you know, Hold'em Manager isn't that fast always. So for me, it seems to make sense that my HUD isn't that appealing, but I don't need to click as much and can just focus on playing, and I have all the numbers that I need available right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. When I was playing, when I did have a HUD, it was nice to have certain stats that would just come up so you could play more tables. Because essentially, if you have to click pop-ups, then at some point you have to play less tables.
Yeah.
Table 1, the cutoff, is a pretty well-known player.
Yeah, he is.
As far as your 3-bet versus that guy, is that a standard 3-bet for you with pocket tens?
Calling doesn't achieve that much, so I think it has to be a standard 3-bet. Like, it's a strong hand, but it's a strong hand that doesn't really gain that much from calling, I feel like. It's neither deceptive nor does it do particularly well against the squeezing range, but it does fairly well against his opening range. So when that's the case, we can raise and feel good about it. These guys, man, just reading the comments it's pretty entertaining. Maybe we should just stream the comment section.
Yeah. Yeah, the comments are usually pretty good. Well,
yeah, table 1, this is not a good turn.
And he leads in you on the turn?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make some thin calls in this spot, but tens is kind of assuming that he has a value range. Tens has to be very, very bad against his range. If he's like overbluffing like a madman, then I mean, the best play could be to raise, as sick as that sounds, and the best play, like, I think if calling is good, then raising is probably better with tens. But that's not a good thing. Like, anytime you're in a spot where you kind of just want to jam random 2 cards to grind out a small win rate, man, I don't know. I mean, I'd be assuming that he's pretty exploitable in that spot, which, God, I could talk about that spot for 30 minutes. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I guess I mean, I don't know how much you want to go into it, but what would you imagine his, like, turn leading range to be? Because he didn't lead massive.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you think about what he wants to achieve there, it's that he kind of wants to set his own price for the river. That's kind of the first thought. And then the second thought is, what can he value bet like that? And even though he made a small bet, it's not that easy. Like, it's not like he can just bet an ace. Because I can have, like, every single ace king pretty much. So what we figured out is that, number one, his size makes a lot of sense with, like, a weak semi-bluff, like even pocket fives with a heart in his hand, you know, like a weak flush draw with a pair. And number 2, his value range is narrow. So so those two things combined mean that it's a fairly attractive spot for me to go after him, but I didn't. I'm actually going to check this again, and hopefully he bets and I raise. That worked.
You're just gonna ship on him.
Sorry, what are you saying?
Are you shipping?
Yeah. It's the size that makes the most sense. He never has a strong hand. When I say he never has a strong hand, what I mean is that if I want a value raise with any hand, I can make it as big as I want. That's what I mean, basically. That's why it's a good size.
Thomas wanted to know, what's up, Thomas, by the way? Do you have a reason behind your different opening sizes?
Because poker is a calling game, I'm just gonna keep picking on that. People can just keep disagreeing and then maybe we get somewhere. Because poker is a calling game, if you open very small, people call more. And at these stakes, people can call a ton. So on the button, I really don't want them, like the big blind especially, I don't want to give him super good pot odds. So that's why I open a little bit bigger. And then in all the other situations, I have a pretty strong range, and I'm going to get 3-bet more, and the 3-better is going to have position on me. So I'm opening smaller to kind of be able to call more 3-bets. This is close. I'm just going to check. To be able to call more 3-bets, and then if somebody wants to call me wide, which, you know, I'm okay with that because my range is quite a bit stronger than his. I'm making this type of bet here. Man, this coffee's really amazingly bad. Table 1, I feel like I want to 3-bet sometimes, but I'm really not going to go crazy with it. Suited connectors are kind of overvalued, I think, in no limit.
Site Teen asks, how much would it cost to get coaching from a guy who's playing no limit 200 Zoom?
No limit what? 100 Zoom?
200 Zoom.
I mean, it depends.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I just Google that, honestly.
You'll probably find it out on 2+2 in the coaching listings.
Yeah, and it changes a lot. That's why I can't really say anything. Like, it just changes every kind of half year. Coaching, typically the prices go up because poker knowledge becomes more valuable.
Ryan wanted to know, oh, you get a 4-bet on table 1.
I'm kind of tempted to jam with this hand. And I'm going to do it. It might not be the best thing in the world. I'm going to say that as a spoiler.